Loyalty sounds like a virtue. It's a word we are taught to admire, to aspire to. We hear it in commencement speeches, in leadership trainings, in the quiet pride of parents describing their children. She's so loyal. Loyal people are dependable, stable, safe. And for a long time, maybe most of my career, I believed that loyalty would be remembered. Not with fanfare, not with trophies, but in the quiet calculus of belonging, that years of showing up, quietly, consistently, even when no one was watching, would eventually mean something lasting. That the organization would hold my history the way I held its mission, that my commitment would be met with a commitment in return. It is a beautiful belief, and it's not entirely wrong, but it is incomplete, like trusting a compass without checking the terrain. Because loyalty in corporate life is a one-way street disguised as a covenant, and you don't realize you are walking it alone until you have gone too far to turn back easily. Loyalty doesn't start as sacrifice. It starts as commitment, and there's a profound difference. I remember my first real test, a major client presentation, scheduled for a Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. The night before, the lead presenter fell ill. By 7 in the evening, panic was rippling through the team. Slides were incomplete, data unverified. No one had full context. I was junior, not the obvious choice, but I had been in every prep meeting. I knew the narrative arc. And when my manager's voice cracked slightly on the phone asking, "Is there any way you could?" I said yes. I stayed until 2 at night, rebuilt the deck, practiced the flow in my empty apartment, walked into that room Monday morning with 3 hours of sleep and a steadiness I didn't feel. We won the account. No one gave me a bonus. No one even mentioned it in my review that year. But my manager looked at me afterward and said, quietly, "I won't forget this." And I believed her. Not because I expected reward, but because in that moment, being trusted felt like belonging. Like I had earned a place at the table. That's how it begins. You stay late once. You take on something extra, not because you are ambitious, but because it needs to be done. You step into the gap when others step away. And at first, it feels good, even righteous. You tell yourself this is how careers are built, not through self-promotion, but through one responsible choice at a time, through showing up when it matters. And so you stay. Not because you are afraid to leave, though fear may visit later, but because you genuinely believe you are building something worth staying for, something that will, in time, hold you the way you have held it. Over time, loyalty becomes a pattern, not a choice you make each day, but a groove you settle into, like a stone worn smooth by river current. You become the one who doesn't complain when priorities shift at the last minute, the one who absorbs pressure without passing it downstream, the one who keeps things steady when others move on to flashier roles or greener pastures. I became known for my calm, my steadiness, my willingness to do what needs to be done, and for years I wore those labels like honors. But slowly, without anyone saying it out loud, this became my role, not my contribution, not my value, my role. You are no longer exceptional. You are expected. And that shift happens in silence. No meeting announces it. No email memorializes the change. It's just that the late night calls start coming to you first. The messy transitions get handed your way without discussion. Your saying yes becomes assumed rather than requested. The problem with being dependable is that it's easy to stop being seen. Your effort blends into the background hum of operations, like a mechanical system, noticed only when it stops working. Your absence would create chaos, but your presence? Your presence is assumed, and assumptions are fragile things. They carry no memory, no gratitude, no sense of debt. They simply expect the next yes, and the next, and the next, until you forget you ever had the capacity to say anything else. Loyalty always asks for something in return. Sometimes it asks for your time. Those evenings and weekends that blur into each other until you can't remember the last sunset you watched without checking email. Sometimes it asks for your flexibility, your willingness to reshape personal plans around business emergencies that feel urgent but rarely are existential. Sometimes, most quietly, it asks for your voice, the opinion you swallow because speaking up might disrupt harmony, the boundary you don't set because everyone is stretched thin, the dream you stop mentioning because it doesn't align with the path you are on. You tell yourself it's temporary, that things will slow down after this launch, after this merger, after this fiscal year, that this season is just demanding. But seasons, you will learn, have a way of becoming decades. I missed my niece's graduation because of a can't-miss leadership offsite. I canceled a long-planned trip with my partner 3 times in 18 months, each time with a different urgent reason. I stopped taking piano lessons, not because I lost interest, but because Tuesday evenings kept getting claimed by priority work that could have waited until Wednesday. And one ordinary Tuesday morning, standing in my kitchen, watching steam rise from my coffee, I realized my life had been shaped around meetings I didn't schedule, around priorities I didn't choose, around a rhythm set by forces I rarely questioned. This is the part no one prepares you for. The moment when you understand that loyalty doesn't just cost effort, it costs options. Not dramatically, not all at once, but quietly, like sand slipping through your fingers you didn't realize were open. There comes a moment for many of us when loyalty is tested not by what we give, but by what we expect in return. For me, it was a Thursday in October, a restructuring announcement. polite language about strategic realignment, a new org chart circulated by 10 in the morning. My role, unchanged on paper. My team, dissolved. My projects, reassigned to a newly hired change leader with half my tenure, but a fresher perspective. In the one-on-one that followed, my director spoke carefully. "You have been invaluable," she said. "With your institutional knowledge, we couldn't have navigated the last 5 years without you." And I believed her. I truly did. But when I asked where I fit in the new vision, what growth looked like now, her pause lasted just a beat too long. "We will find the right place for you," she said. And in that moment, I understood that the years I had given didn't carry the weight I thought they would. Not because they were meaningless, they weren't. Not because my director was dishonest, she wasn't. But because systems don't remember effort the way people do. They optimize for future potential, not past contribution. They reward adaptability over endurance. They protect their own continuity, not the individuals who enabled it. Loyalty, it turns out, is deeply human, but corporate life is not. It is structural, forward-facing, designed to shed weight, not honor history. And that isn't malice, it's mechanics. And mechanics feel like betrayal when you have been operating from the heart. I don't regret being loyal. Loyalty taught me discipline, the kind that shows up even when motivation fades. It taught me responsibility, the weight of knowing others depend on your word. It taught me how to carry pressure without passing it on. But I also learned this, that loyalty without boundaries slowly becomes self-erasure. Not all at once, not with drama, but in the quiet subtraction of yes after yes, until you can't remember what you would say if saying no was still an option. And that staying too long doesn't always look like commitment. Sometimes it often looks like forgetting. Forgetting that your life was always larger than the role you were asked to play. That your value was never contingent on your utility to a system. That the years you gave were yours to give, but never yours to lose. There's a difference between building a career and building a life. One happens within walls someone else designed. The other happens in the spaces between obligations, in the margins you protect fiercely because they hold your becoming. I still believe in loyalty, but now I understand its proper object. Not systems, not titles, not the promise of reciprocity from structures that cannot love, but people, principles, the quiet voice inside that knows when it's time to stay and when it's time to go. And most of all, loyalty to the truth that your life belongs to you. Not as a resource to be optimized, but as a story to be lived, fully, intentionally, on your own terms. That realization doesn't arrive with anger. It arrives with a gentle settling, like coming home to a house you didn't know you had left. This is another thread in the quiet tapestry of 42 years of work, not offered as advice, not wrapped in regret, not as a mistake I needed to undo, just shared as something that became clear once I stopped filling every silence and learned to listen to what remained.